Hi, welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. I'm Adam Gold. It's been a pretty good game. Was a pretty good game for the Carolina Hurricanes. They beat the Chicago Blackhawks by a 3-0 score. Pyotr Kochetkov, absolutely dynamite in the game. And they get goals from Jordan Martinook, Jordan Stahl, and Andrei Svechnikov for the win. Carolina needed a good performance. They got great goaltending. I thought Carolina's best period was clearly the first, maybe early in the second. Killed off 4 power plays by the Blackhawks, but for the most part, this was a game where Carolina pretty much won it offensively in the first and then let Kochetkov do the heavy lifting the rest of the way. And why not? They got a couple of days off. Wouldn't be that surprised if we saw Kochetkov play on Thursday against the Colorado Avalanche, but I think what Rod Brindamore is more likely to do is simply go back and forth until Freddie Anderson is ready to go. Antti Ranta's probably the number one, but I'll say this: Kochetkov certainly earned another start if Rod Brindamore wants to give it. Do you feel festive? I feel festive. I feel festive, and I think why not? Why not be a little festive? I hung some stockings behind me. It's a nice warm fire. It's cold outside. It is hockey weather, so why not do it? We'll be joined by a friend in just a little bit. As I said on Twitter after the game, um, the Blackhawks could not get one through Coochie tonight. I'm a little uncomfortable with that as a nickname. Personally, I'm a little uncomfortable with Coochie as a nickname. But Kochetkov was really, really good tonight, as you'll hear in the highlight package in just a few minutes. And then we'll talk to Michael Leboff of the Action Network, who has the best Twitter handle ever in the big Lebowski. I'm not sure that's even going to be allowed by Elon Musk going forward, but we'll find out. By the way, my Twitter handle, if you want to join us on Twitter at any point, is at agoldfan. Trying these live on YouTube from time to time, and if you like them, great. If not, then that's okay too. You don't have to like them. I'm not 100% sure I like them. So this game was about Pyotr Kochetkov. Freddie Anderson went down we didn't actually know he was hurt. He got hurt, I believe, in the Toronto game that we didn't really know about until the practice the next day before they left for, was it Florida? Before they left for Florida. And he left practice. We're like, what's wrong with Freddie? Nobody knows. So Antti Ranta played in Florida, played great. Best game of the year to that point. They didn't win it, but he played really well. Didn't allow a soft goal. Everything was good. And they bring up Kochetkov, and they come back the next night against Edmonton, and Kochetkov has to play because they're not rolling Ranta out there again. I actually asked Rod Brindamore that, and he goes, yeah, well, he had a pretty heavy workload, and he did in Florida. Really kept Carolina in the game, gave him a chance. But Kochetkov played great against Edmonton, and it was a much more high impact, high danger game, I thought. Obviously, Edmonton does that. Edmonton's got way more weapons than the Blackhawks do. But Kochetkov was great, and he was entertaining as heck. I think he was better tonight. I think he was more calm tonight. And that's when you know a goaltender is on top of his game, when there's not a lot of wasted movement. And you'll see the best teams understand how to take advantage of goalies who are excitable, who play with a lot of adrenaline and a lot of emotion. And you can get a goalie out of position that way. And to be honest, it's important that Kochetkov plays with a sense of calm. And the way he did it against Edmonton worked for him, but it's probably not a recipe for consistency in the NHL. But he was really calm tonight. Again, Chicago doesn't pose the same problems, obviously, as Edmonton does. Chicago has been struggling to score 2.71 goals a game coming in, but Chicago's power play has been good. And they got They had 8 shots on goal on the power play. That's just 8 on goal. How about some that maybe didn't hit the, you know, weren't on net? I believe Max Domi hit the post on one. But Kochetkov made a bunch of really good saves while shorthanded. Handles the puck pretty well, too. We remember a former Hurricanes goaltender that maybe, handled the puck a little too much at times, but he was good at it. So as long as Kochetkov can figure it out, can be good with the puck, then that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're going to be joined by Michael Leboff from the Action Network in just a few minutes. We're going to talk more broadly about the East, if not the entire NHL. We won't spend a ton of time on that. And then if you have questions or what, we'll throw them in at the end. And if you are listening to this not live, if you are listening to it on the Garden Variety Canes Corner podcast, available wherever you get your podcast, you may or may not have already heard a highlight package, in which case we highlight just how freaking good Pyotr Kochetkov was. Speaking of freaking good, while it wasn't as pronounced tonight, Carolina's best line continues to be that of the captain, Jordan Staal, with Jordan Martinook on the left and Jesper Fast on the right. I don't mean to sound like the campaign manager for Jordan Martinook, but every single line he has been on this year has been spectacular. It's been one of Carolina's best players. If I was doing a 3 stars of the first 4 weeks, is it 4 weeks? About 4 weeks. 5 weeks. 5 weeks on Wednesday, right? Martinook is going to be one of the 3 stars. It's been amazing. 4th goal of the season tonight. He's got more goals than Seth Jarvis in less ice time. Not playing with Aho and Teravainen. Or tonight, it was Kokaniemi, Svechnikov, and Jarvis. I think it's pretty good, right? For Jordan Martinook to have, what does he have? 9 points on the season? It's tremendous. He's been awesome. And he started the season on the 4th line. Paul Stastny experiment playing the left wing with Staal and Foss wasn't working out. They needed to get Jordan's line going. Martinook bumps up. Boom. That line is electric. At times where Martinook has played with Aho, that line was great. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. Not the good play, the health. If Martinook could have, if you could wish for him anything, it's a healthy season, because a healthy Jordan Martinook is impactful. He makes stuff happen. He was such a good player. He's been such a good player. Again, that line probably wasn't at its best tonight. It was early. It created the first 2 goals. The Martinook deflection of the Brent Burns shot really started by, it came not that long after a power play expired. If I have this in front of me, it was about a minute after a power play expired. In fact, Jesper Fast, who was part of the last unit on that power play, wasn't even back on the ice. So Jack Drury took that shift with Staal and Martinook, and that line was excellent. And they created the goal. Burns getting the shot on net. Martinook and Drury both out in front of Mrazek. Both of their sticks about bar height. But the goal was pretty quickly, I think, ruled. Maybe it wasn't quickly. It was ruled a goal. Good. It was a good goal. So 1-0. And then another good hard work and shift by the captain's line, and a shot from above the right faceoff circle, probably one that Mrazek wants back. He was very, very small. He went down. He had, if Jordan Staal wanted to slide the puck in, it probably wasn't going to find a way through, but he shot it high, glove side, and it was 2-0. And that was enough for Carolina. I mean, I don't know how great Carolina was the rest of the way, but they were good enough. Penalty kill, 4 for 4. I think early on that was Kochetkov. I think Chicago had 5 shots on their first 2 power plays, 3 shots on their last two, but that was Kochetkov. Power play still not great for Carolina. I didn't really like it tonight. 0 for 3. And so that's going to have to get better. It certainly doesn't help when you don't have Teravainen out there and you're really not getting much offensively from Kokaniemi or Stasny or Jarvis at this point. So Carolina's got to figure those things out. But for the most part, there's not a lot to complain about. I think they got the lead and then basically just said, we don't think you're good enough to get one past Cucci. Couldn't slide it past Cucci, through Cucci. I'm sorry. I'm like a 4-year-old. Actually, I'm not like a 4-year-old. I'm like a 14-year-old. 4-year-olds wouldn't be saying that. Anyway, let's get to my man, Michael Leboff from the Action Network. Oh, the Islanders Anxiety Podcast. Nice hat, Michael. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. It's a little cold in my house. I didn't turn the heat on yet, but I love wearing this hat after wins. So
yeah,
feeling good, feeling cozy.
You're the Hurricanes are looking up at your Islanders right now in the standings, 1 point ahead. I remember seeing the Islanders at PNC Arena. This is now about 3 weeks ago, and they came in with, I think they had just won a game, and they were, I think, 4-5 when they came in. The Islanders were, I mean, way better than Carolina that game, and I think it's a good team. I don't know that they're fast, but maybe they don't have to be if they get good goaltending. And I loved Sorokin. I know Varlamov played tonight. Or this afternoon. Why'd they play at 1:00 in the afternoon in Ottawa? Do you know?
It was
Or maybe it
5:30.
was what?
It was a 5:30 start, which was even weirder because after the game ends, you're like, all right, got like an hour. Then I'm gonna go to bed and stuff if you're a normal person. And but so my body clock was all messed up. It was 8:00 when I really thought it was like 10:00. But they did it because they wanted the fans to be able to watch the Daniel Alfredson Hall of Fame induction after the game on the Jumbotron.
Look at that.
So yeah, they moved the game up. But yeah, I remember that game in Carolina. So about a week before that on the Islanders Anxiety Podcast, my co-host and I were talking about how the season was over because the Islanders were 2-4, and then they had a 3-game stretch against the Rangers, Hurricanes, and Avalanche coming up, and they ended up sweeping those 3 games.
Right.
So yeah, they're doing something that they did in Trotz's first year, that 2018-19 season. They're not playing like I would call it clean hockey. They're making mistakes and stuff, but they're finding a way to bank points.
Yeah.
And that's all you got to do at this point of the season. Like you'll figure the rest out later, but if you don't have those points in your pocket, you don't get to go to the dance.
That is true. It's what got the Islanders behind it last year. I mean, just a dreadful start. I mean, I've always thought they're a good team. It was a little bit confusing last year, but again, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I love Sorokin, and I like him more than Shesterkin, but I think I'm alone in that. But I think maybe it's just horses for courses. But I love Ilya Sorokin.
I think you can make an argument that he's better than him. I don't think anyone would call you crazy at this point, especially right now.
People call me crazy all the time, Michael. People call me crazy all the time.
Yeah, not me. No, I'm with you. I think, and what the Rangers showed us last year. I mean, if you remember talking to me, how frustrated I was because the Rangers were getting every break because if your goalie keeps you in games, when you do catch a break and you make the other team pay, you're going to win because your goalie is kept giving you a chance to win, and that's what the Islanders are getting right now from Sorokin, tonight from Varlamov. But yeah, Ilya, man, Sorokin looks he's like something I've never seen before as an Islander fan. It's a sight to behold for him, and between him and he's the clear MVP of the team to start, and then but the guys like Brock Nelson is off to a great start. Barzell's having the weirdest great season ever with 0 goals and 18 assists through 17 games. It's so, I mean, they're enough of the guys are clicking every night that they're formidable. I think that Carolina game was their best game of the season.
They were dynamite. Barzell, I thought Barzell was the best skater on the ice that game.
Yeah, and they won it for Josh Bailey. I thought that was great that the Hurricanes gave Josh Bailey the the nod on the Jumbotron because here on Long Island, the joke was that we always have is that Islander fans, he's a very polarizing player, Bailey. I love him, but he was rushed through. His development didn't go well. He was rushed through the minors, played for some bad teams, and that kind of just like that reputation stuck to him for some reason. But he's been with them for so long, and he's basically just been this kind of milk toast middle six player, effective and productive if you're an Islander fan. But why on earth would someone from the Minnesota Wild know about Josh Bailey? So that's how we always think about him. So it was actually kind of a big deal among Islander fans that the Hurricanes did that. Like we were like, oh, that was great. Like I can't believe they didn't even know who Josh Bailey is.
Well, he scored some big goals against Carolina. I remember an overtime goal he scored against the Hurricanes. So look, we're nothing. It's Southern hospitality.
Yes,
Michael. That's really all it is. Can you first of all, real quick about the Hurricanes, and I know you pay attention to these guys because you fancy them at the window. So the thing about the Hurricanes have played a handful of really good games. Maybe their best game was the game against Edmonton on Thursday night. I mean, Edmonton still scored twice, but I thought Carolina was significantly better than them and really kept McDavid and Draisaitl under wraps all night long. But I don't know that Carolina has played a start to finish great game other than the one against Edmonton against anybody that I would consider a playoff team. I mean, I'm just off the top of my head. I just can't. No, Tampa. The game at Tampa, Carolina was significantly better than the Lightning. And they had to come back in that one because Lightning on the power play is just freaking lethal. So it's been a weird year, but Carolina's not played their best hockey, 21 points. And as a Hurricanes fan, I'll just say, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. You don't win the Stanley Cup at Thanksgiving, but you can definitely be out of the play. I mean, like we already said on this podcast, the Islanders were out of the season by Thanksgiving last year, basically. So, as long as you're putting the points in your pocket, it's really not a big deal. I'm kind of encouraged by what I see out of Carolina. They're doing what they do, right? They tilt the ice. They generally attempt more shots. They generally get better, high quality scoring chances than their opponents at 5-on-5. And it's going to be the same old question with this team that we always have, right? Like, are they going to be able to bury enough of those chances come playoff time? You hope that Max Pacioretty, if you remember, like I was pretty excited about the Hurricanes prospects. It's like, wow, that's such a perfect fit for this team. Of course, he ends up getting hurt, but he'll come around for playoff time, and he should be exactly what this team's crying out for. And then you have like some sluggish starts for Seth Jarvis, who he's like part of that crew of players that everyone just automatically is like, this guy he's gonna take a massive step forward. And you realize that prospects and young players, it's never linear unless you are like a McDavid or a player like that. Like you're gonna have some fits and starts. And when he I think he'll find his form. They're not getting those kind of seasons from kind of guys in the middle of their lineup, and when they do hit, I expect Carolina to just be a force. I think one thing that maybe I overlooked before the season that I think is actually going to be significantly important for this team, especially in the playoffs, is Brent Burns and his ability to provide a big goal or two from the back end, which I think that the Canes were crying out for, especially in that Rangers series. Like they might have got scoring chances or goals from defensemen, but having someone who is a legitimate threat to score from the blue line every time he steps on the ice is a big deal. So I think, they're set up. The deadline, I think they'll need to, sprinkle some more finishing to the team. Maybe don't go after Max Domi this trade deadline. Find a different guy to fill out the top of the lineup. But I would have no concerns with where Carolina is right now at all.
That is Michael LeBoff from the Action Network, best Twitter handle. Until Elon Musk makes you take it down. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll sell it to him if he wants it for
the big Lebowski.
$3 million.
Just don't anger him because he'll figure out a way to ban you from
Yeah.
Twitter. The Max Pacioretty will be a big deal. The Hurricanes are what 10-5-1 without a goal, no goals from Teuvo Teravainen through 16 games. Now he's missed the last two, but no goals from Teravainen, no goals from Paul Stastny, who's played all but one game. 3 goals from Seth Jarvis, 3 points, and frankly, the goal was an excuse me accidental goal from Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So there's a bunch of guys that haven't really contributed anything offensively. Martin Necas has been amazing.
Yep.
For the most part, Sebastian Aho, I think I was talking to Chip Tracy today. I think he said he gives Sebastian a B for the first part of the season. He's been mostly very good. We haven't seen too much great from him. We've seen a lot of great from Necas, a lot of great from Svechnikov, who's got 2 hat tricks already. Both of them against Edmonton. Brent Burns had a slow start, but I think his last 5 or 6 games, he's looked exactly like Brent Burns. They don't have a goal from Slavin or Pesci or any of the other. Well, Calvin DeHaan has a goal. I'm not sure DeHaan is exactly what they need on the back end. Like the 2 guys who played tonight, Chatfield and Max Lajoie. Chatfield's played in every game. I love his skating ability. I don't know if he's going to score a goal all year, but I think he's going to stay in the lineup unless he gets hurt. I like the way Lajoie played tonight. He's a good skater, and maybe that's Carolina's third pair because they both skate well. They're both kind of versatile. And I'm not sure DeHaan is a good enough skater. I know Dylan Coughlin's not a good enough skater. He's got a bomb of a shot, but holy cow, he's like a traffic cone.
Man, I miss Calvin. He was a lot of fun on Long
I love
Island, and
Calvin.
yeah, he's great. And he's perfect. He's the perfect kind of number 7 guy. Here's how I'd look at it, right? Like you'd expect them to make the playoffs, and by the time you get into the playoffs, if you're still dressing your 6th defenseman from opening night, you had a very lucky season. And there's a lot of teams out there that I think right now would say we'd love to have Calvin DeHaan as our 7 guy or number 6 or
Right.
7. I mean, there's a lot of teams right now that would be like, we'd love to have Calvin DeHaan in our top 4. If you look around the league, there are teams that are begging for defensemen, and DeHaan, yeah, he's never ever going to. You're never going to leave the arena and say, "Man, I'm happy I got to watch Calvin DeHaan play hockey," right? But you're going to leave the arena and you're not going to be thinking about him, and that's the whole point of him as a
Right.
defenseman. So, I mean, even that, like, I like Chatfield too. Just watching him when they played the Islanders, and just bits and pieces of the Hurricanes. He's like, all action, kind of like a Tasmanian devil style defenseman. Like there's just this kind of cloud around him, and you can just tell I'm like, when I watched him, and I didn't know much about him at all. When I watched him as the Islanders, he is an absolute Hurricane. Just such a that type of player. Good skater, physical. He seems to be everywhere on the ice all at once. That's exactly what I think about when I think about Carolina Hurricanes, and they drive me nuts because you feel like you're playing against 8 or 9 guys at a time. But yeah, I'm like, even with the forwards and just like the forwards, I mean, I have no problems with Carolina's defense. And you rattled off those guys who are off the slow starts, and you think about the goaltending too. Like Freddie Anderson hasn't been great
No, not at all.
at all, and then him and he's hurt, and then Kochetkov looks great through his first kind of cameo this season. So it's they're 10-5-1 despite, what would you say, half the roster playing to a C
Yeah.
plus. Like that's good.
Yeah. No,
It's scary for the rest of the division.
I hope so. Let me ask you about a couple of other teams. I knew New Jersey was getting better.
Yeah.
You can't draft first overall like every year and not get better. And those guys are good. Hughes is good. Heischer is good. But they've got obviously other good players, but they have added smartly. When you bring in an Andre Palat, and even though, he's sort of an annoyance, he's a pretty feisty, good, gritty player in Eric Halla. Dougie Hamilton's been good. I don't think Dougie Hamilton's been great, but he's been good. Um, that's a pretty good team, the
Yeah,
Devils. They've won nine in a row.
9 in a row.
Now,
Yeah.
are they I mean, they're probably more hot than good, but they're banking a lot of points.
Yeah, they're banking points. They're tilting the ice too. I think they're the only team in the league with a better expected goals rate and high danger scoring chance rate than Carolina. Um, I'm a little just confused, honestly, because all the numbers say that everything they're doing is legit. There was a kind of the first half of this winning streak. It was coming against soft opponents, and so people were kind of poking holes, saying, we'll wait till they beat someone, and then they started to beat people, good teams, and now you can't really question it. It's a legitimate streak, and they're definitely good, but their goaltending situation to me is such a calamity that you sure like they're a good team and they'll win more often than they lose. I think is pretty fair to say, but they need to address that. So they're going to be playing Akira Schmid on Tuesday night against the Canadians. Blackwood's already been hurt. Vanacek's hurt now. They both have played to an 896 save
Yeah.
percentage, I believe, which for in the new NHL is just right around like the middle of the league. But still, when you can't go into a playoff series with that. So they don't scare me from that standpoint. Will I be like a little scared when the Islanders play them on like a single game night? Yeah, but in terms of like a best of 7 and stuff, if the Devils go into the playoffs as a 1 or 2 seed in the Metro, I think they'd be very vulnerable because of their goaltending situation, and I don't think they're very fast. Jesper Bratt, Hughes, Heischer, like they're great skaters. They move the puck well. I think John Marino's been great for them too, but
Yeah.
like they don't physically impose themselves, and so they won't wear you down. I don't think over a 7-game series. Now that said, I've kind of been discounting them this every step of the way so far this season, so I'm sure they'll prove me wrong when we get to that too. But uh, I would still make Carolina the favorite in the division ahead of New Jersey, but I will say that the Devils' surge has turned what I thought was going to be, a race between the Rangers, Caps, Penguins, and Islanders into now a 5-team race, which does complicate things.
Look, first of all, I thought half of Boston's roster was going to be out until December. Bergeron didn't miss a game. I mean, Marchand came back like 3 weeks into the season. McAvoy just got back. They're 14-2.
Yeah,
They're maybe I don't know, are they better? They're getting good goaltending.
yeah,
I mean, you can't kill them. They're
no.
freaking vampires.
I write a big preview before every season, and I had the Bruins as my like number 2 most kind of valuable team compared to the betting market because I thought you were going to be able to get a great price on Boston after a slow start. And I regret that I didn't just get in right away. They were like 28-1 to win the Stanley Cup. And for me, that price wasn't good enough for me. I'm going to be cute and wait for them to be 40-1 after a slow start. And yikes. So now I'm like thinking about, oh, should I parlay the Bruins with Spain to win the World Cup? Then I can get the Bruins at 75-1 and I'll feel
Yep.
better about myself. But no, they are exactly who they've been. And I think we're seeing this strange phenomenon in the league right now where you look around at the teams that made new voice hires or old voice fires where they fired Bruce Cassidy in Boston and the team responded really well. I mean, even with the Islanders a little bit, Trotz leaving, like they've responded. Vegas gets Bruce Cassidy in and Pete DeBoer out. They're sick of DeBoer, and look at how they've been going. The
Yeah.
Stars get Rick Bonus out, DeBoer in, and they've responded. The Jets, they get the bonus. Like it's these new manager bounces all over the league are really funny, and it really kind of shows you that how much of hockey comes down to just like effort and everyone pulling in the same direction and buying in because the Bruins clearly were sick of Bruce Cassidy. I mean, everything you've heard
Yeah.
about that's come out of that camp, Krejci coming back and all that stuff, like they wanted that guy out. No matter what his success was, and they're playing with a much, I guess, more much more oomph is, I guess, the best way to put it, and they're happy to play for their coach and put their body on the line, and that's really important in hockey. So, yeah, it's a strange phenomenon. The Bruins are for real. I think the Bruins are the best team in the East. I think Carolina, it's Boston, Carolina, 1-2
Oh, that
in
would
my
be fun
power
again.
rankings. Hmm?
That would be fun for like the fourth
Yeah,
postseason
yeah. Maybe this
in
time it'll be a
the
little
last.
late. It'll be a little later in the playoffs, but
Well, it can't be any later than it was in
yeah, that's
2018-19.
yeah, that's true.
All right. Final thing about the NHL from Michael Leboff from the Action Network. Penguins and Capitals going to be on the outside looking in?
I mean, come on, that's not
How
allowed.
is that even possible?
I know. I was astounded. I thought the Capitals were also underrated coming into the year. I thought that they were actually a pretty good Stanley Cup bet because I looked around and like the East is wide open. You
Yeah.
can totally see the Capitals. They're such a steady, consistent team. They'll get better goaltending with Kemper. You could just see them after the dust settles being in the Eastern Conference Final, and uh, you'd be really happy if that was the case and you're holding a 41 ticket. Um, they're concerning. They their fall kind of is much more concerning to me if I was a Capitals fan than what's going on with the Penguins. I think the Penguins are about to start climbing. They're going to go on their traditional holiday season, 17 1-1 stretch, it looks like. And then all their guys will get hurt and they'll start playing worse and whatever. But yeah, the Capitals to me look like they could. And I was astounded that when I was doing the research for that article, the Capitals have finished first in their division. I think it's first. It might have been first or second, but I'm pretty sure it's first in 14 of 16 seasons. And last year they finished fourth, so that's one of them. And the other one was the year they missed the playoffs, which was around 2009 ish.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that these two teams are and the Penguins, of course, have made the playoffs 16 years in a row. Like, that's half my life. So half my life has just been the Penguins, showing up in the spring into the playoffs, and the Capitals being there with them, and so to have it change, it'll be a little strange. But I mean, we're gonna need it. The Islanders will. I think that seat at the dance is gonna be the one that's gonna be kind of vacated. Will be the Capital seat, and the Islanders need to try to do their best to get it. Um, but yeah, I think I would have a lot less faith in Washington being able to make up any ground compared to Pittsburgh, who I think are still kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm not who knows what kind of goaltending Pittsburgh's going to get.
That's true too. Yeah.
Jare's like 1 year's great, next year not so good. So who knows? I probably have a little bit less faith in Darcy Kemper than you do, but I think he's a good goaltender. But they weren't getting good goaltending at all
Right.
last year. All right, last thing I wanted to touch on with Michael Leboff at the big Lebowski on Twitter. World Cup starts this Sunday. This
Yeah.
Sunday it starts. United States plays Monday
Yep.
against Wales. Thoughts on the U.S. getting out of Group B?
Yeah, they're about even money to get out, plus 100. So odds makers look at that group. England are the odds-on favorite to win. They're like minus 800, 900 to advance, maybe even shorter. Like everyone's pricing them as a sure thing. I
Yeah.
think England's a little more vulnerable than that. And then obviously Wales and the US are the coin flip teams. I think if you just look at it through talent, like the US is clearly the second best team, the second deepest team in this group against Wales and Iran. That said, Wales have this ethos about them, and they put this core has been playing together
Mhm.
since a magical run at the Euros in 2016. Then they don't qualify in 2018, but then they make it to the Euros in 2020. They advance to the knockout stages, and then they go on a great qualifying run in the world to get to the World Cup, where they won a playoff against Austria as underdogs, and they beat Ukraine. Like, this team is very good in moments, and Gareth Bale that's who he is too, right? Like,
Yep.
at this point of his career, he's just a great player in a moment. Like, he can provide you the difference in a game if you can keep it in 0-0 or 1-1. Bale could be the difference. And that's a little scary. But I do think that they're not just competing with Wales and Iran. Like England, they play a very kind of pragmatic conservative style. And
Yeah.
when you look at England, you're like, this is the most talented team, one of the most talented teams in the entire field. If they played to those strengths more, like they could get the separation needed. Especially when you're a big favorite, you need to be able to get margin, and they just don't play that style. So they'll let teams hang around, and that makes them a little vulnerable. So yeah, I think I in terms of like the market, like I think the US is maybe there's still some value on them to advance. I don't hate like us sprinkling them to like make a run to the semis at 12-1. It's pretty unlikely, but if
Yes.
they can win the group, like the path opens up because winning your group is really important in the World Cup. But I think my favorite bet in the entire group is England to miss or to not qualify, which is at 8-1. So those odds are right away telling you it's unlikely, but I think it's just not going to be as straightforward for them as people think.
They are loaded. If they don't get out. Now, I know Ivan Toney for Brentford scored a couple of goals. I
Yeah.
don't know if Gareth Southgate was sitting there watching, but I don't see how you don't put Ivan Toney on.
Yeah. I
I think
can't
he's
believe he
second in
didn't.
the Premier,
I know.
second in the Prem in goals. Who's your pick to win it?
So I think my pick to win it, if you're just not looking at odds, is Spain. My favorite bet is Uruguay. They're 50-1. Their group is very
Mm.
manageable. I think Portugal is a vulnerable favorite in that group. Then it's South Korea and Ghana. Uruguay, like their reputation is as this really solid defensive
Yeah.
side, and they've been that way forever. And they should still be that. But now they have your boy Darwin Nunez. They have
Mhm.
Luis Suarez, Fede Valverde, who's just lighting it up with Real Madrid, and Rodrigo Bentancur. Like there's a lot of creative talent,
Yeah.
and that defensive solidity will still be there. So they have a very manageable group. If they win that group ahead of Portugal, the path is wide open. And one other long shot, I have to get it out there. Uh, we our Action Network Soccer betting podcast is called Wonder Goal, and me and my two co-hosts are obsessed with this team, and that's Japan. They're in the group with Spain and
Mhm.
Germany. They're a long shot just to get out. Obviously, it's Spain, Germany, Costa Rica, and Japan. But Japan play this really thrilling high press style, and they're really good on the counter. Like they're really, really good on the counter. And Germany, they're so on the front foot, like like
Right.
Jurgen Klopp style, right? Like they want the ball, they want to get it forward, and they want to send bodies forward. And Japan is the perfect kind of foil for that because they'll they'll pick a pass off or nick a ball, and then everyone goes the other way to spring a counter really quick. So they could actually match up with Germany pretty well. And Japan's like 34-1 to win to make it to the semifinals. I like that bet. They're 250-1 to win the whole thing. I think that's a little crazy, but I just think Japan on a game to game basis, and if you're looking at sprinkle a team to maybe surprise and win a group at long odds, Japan would be my pick.
All right. Final question. What do you think of Senegal's chances now that Mane is going to play?
Yeah, I mean, what a soap opera. That group is just so strange because of Qatar. They
Right.
moved the entire World Cup up a day for this team
Right.
only in August. Like people were like, "Oh, it's just one match." They moved one match up one day. No, they're starting the tournament a day early. That means that all the Ecuador fans who had tickets and travel booked for Monday now have to change it to Sunday, and it's a big deal. And if FIFA's willing to go that far for Qatar, and I mean, look at how far they've already gone for them. They basically were an international crime syndicate to
Yeah.
get this tournament in Qatar. Like who knows how far they'll go for this team. So that's what scares me about. I like Ecuador too. Like I think Senegal and Ecuador were two teams I had circled before the draw, and I wish they were in different groups because I think that they both can punch up pretty well. But then the Qatar thing kind of looms. But yeah, Senegal with Mane are a legitimate sleeper, like could make a deep run, quarterfinals, semifinals. Without him, he's such a difference maker that you think, okay, like in a competitive group, they could end up finishing last. So the error bars on Senegal are so wide. But I every time I think about Group A, I'm just like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if you remembered the 2002 World Cup. It was in South Korea and Japan. Um, and South Korea made this run to the semifinals where it came out afterwards that the refs were being basically bribed by FIFA to get South Korea there because they
No
were
way.
Yeah, there's it was a Colombian ref, I believe, or maybe it might have been a Bolivian ref. Um, but if if you can watch it on YouTube, just watch South Korea. I think it's South Korea, Italy. Like there was like something like 27 fouls called on Italy and 2 on South Korea. They got a penalty. It was one of the most absurd thing. I remember as a 12-year-old, like reading about the next day, just talking about like the dubious refereeing and stuff. And then 10 years later, listening to a podcast about how the ref who was calling that game was like blacklisted from soccer forever. Because FIFA was embarrassed by the lack of crowds in the stands or something.
Right.
So they needed to get South Korea through. So, I mean, it's FIFA. Like, so that's the scary thing, right? So, group with Senegal, that's my long winded way of saying I have no idea what to expect out of any team in Group A because of Qatar being in Group A and what FIFA is going to be willing to do to get them through or not. I don't know. I really have no idea. But all I can tell you is it's going to be a really wild ride the next month.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I know you're excited about it too. I thank you very much for staying up late for me.
Yeah, of
Michael
course.
LeBoff, Action Network, the big Lebowski until Elon Musk takes it away. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. I appreciate your time.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll see you soon.
Take care. That's Michael LeBoff from the Action Network. That's fun. If before we wrap it up, if anybody has any questions, you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. We'll just kind of go back to a little bit about the Hurricanes. Thank you for indulging me. This is our little fireside chat before the Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to try to do at least one of these a week live on YouTube. It just worked out tonight where we could do it. Look, just to get back to what Michael and I were talking about the Canes, haven't played anything close to, I think, their best hockey on a consistent basis. We've seen it here and there. Certainly, we saw it at Tampa. We saw it against Edmonton, and those are good wins. But we haven't seen it on a day in, day out basis. Carolina was outstanding in the first period and just good enough the rest of the way. The goaltending was really good, and maybe that's the most encouraging thing that I've seen over the last week or so is that Ranta and Kochetkov have switched off being awesome. Ranta was great in both the games that they lost in this 4-game run, and Kochetkov was great in both the games that they won. And I think it helped tonight that they were playing Chicago and not a team that was deeper because Carolina allowed a little bit too much midway through the second period and into the third. But they got away with it tonight. But Kochetkov was there to save them. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have saved any, all the shots from another team too. He was really good tonight because Chicago can score. They just don't score a ton. They don't traded away a lot of their firepower. Brandon Hagel's in Tampa. Alex DeBrincat's in Ottawa. Patrick Kane is not playing with the caliber of players he's used to playing with. And he's probably getting traded at some point between now and the deadline anyway. Stall line continues to be great. They're going to need that line to be great. They're going to need the whatever the combinations end up being, going to need Teuvo Teravainen to come back and score a goal. And it's not about kind of keeping the stuff together until Max Pacioretty comes back. I mean, that's not till February. They got to be good. It'd be nice to see if Andre Kasha get in the lineup. A couple of things that are not working out so far. I mean, Paul Stastny's not been good. Jesperi Kotkaniemi has been no better than just okay. Seth Jarvis, I thought there were some moments for Seth Jarvis tonight that I thought were pretty good, but I didn't think he was great, and I don't think he's been great throughout. I think he's had little moments here and there, and they're going to be patient with him. I don't think we're thinking about, well, maybe do we send him back to Chicago? They could do that. I mean, he doesn't have to clear waivers, but I'm not suggesting that they will do that or that they should do that. But they need more from some of the guys who were supposed to score. And Vincent Trocheck, the replacement for him was supposed to be Kotkaniemi. Nino Niederreiter, the replacement for him, theoretically, Pacioretty. So they're not getting anything right now out of the two replacements for significant pieces. I think the Niederreiter influence is less of an issue than filling the Trocheck absence, because that's a lot of minutes in a center, and they're not getting it from Kokoniemi right now. So for no reason at all other than I like him better as a player, not as a person. I mean, I'm sure KK is fine. Even though it was just a 2-game cameo last year, I like what I see from Drury better than what I see from Kokoniemi. So at some point, this will be entirely merit-based. And when we get to that point, Kokoniemi had better be producing. Really, that's the end of that. Penalty kill 4 for 4 thanks to Kochetkov. Power play 0 for 3 needs to be better. With that said, all of it is brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Free, no obligation estimate online, aluminumcompany.com. Sammy and his crew do a great job. You know that. Siding, roofing, windows, entry doors, storm doors, gutter helmets, you name it, they got it. At the aluminumcompany.com online for free, no obligation estimate. I probably already said this, aluminumcompany.com. Follow the Canes Corner podcast wherever you get your podcast. And shows up automatically in your phone or wherever you get your podcast. I don't know. I don't care where you get your podcast. It's always there. But if you're listening to it in podcast, you can't see the stockings I have hung on the chimney. That is not real. That fire's not real either. And we would have a much better looking Christmas tree in our house. So thanks to Michael Leboff from the Action Network. Thanks to you for hanging out. Thanks to those of you who joined us in the chat. We'll do it again soon, I promise. Until Thursday night when the Hurricanes host the Colorado Avalanche at PNC Arena. I'm Adam Gold, and this has been the Morning After Podcast, the Canes Corner Podcast, Morning After Edition. Good night.